Nathan Stone felt the first symptoms on the road between San Francisco and Los Angeles. The heavy 18-wheeler rolled obediently along the asphalt, but the driver was gripping the steering wheel more and more tightly, feeling an inexplicable weakness spreading through his body. Dizziness came in waves, and his throat was so dry that even coffee from his thermos didn't help. In his 38 years, Nathan had grown accustomed to fatigue after long drives, but this was something else. When another bout of weakness nearly forced him off the road, Nathan made a decision. He contacted the dispatcher and reported that he was ending his trip early due to health reasons. The cargo could be left at the intermediate base in Bakersfield, where another driver would pick it up. The company didn't like incidents like this, but Nathan had been working for them for 8 years and had earned their trust. The road home to Fresno seemed endless. Nathan stopped several times to rest and drink some water. Every mile was a struggle, and his thoughts were jumbled. Maybe it was the flu or food poisoning. He had eaten something questionable at the last roadside diner, but the symptoms were strange, not acute, but rather exhausting, as if his body was slowly surrendering to an invisible enemy. When the familiar streets of Fresno flashed by the windows, Nathan felt relieved. Their house was in a quiet neighborhood populated mainly by working-class families. Small, single-story buildings with neat lawns and old trees created an atmosphere of measured life. Nathan parked his pickup truck next to the house and slowly climbed the steps to the porch. Kimura met him at the door with surprise in her eyes. She was dressed in a housecoat, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and wearing light makeup. Apparently, she was getting ready to go out. "Nate, you weren't supposed to be back until Friday," she said, coming closer and studying his face. "You look terrible. What happened?" "I got sick on the road," he replied briefly, walking into the hallway. "I barely made it home." Kimura immediately switched into caring wife mode. She helped him take off his jacket, showed him to the bedroom, and insisted that he lie down. She brought him hot tea with honey and aspirin. Her hands were warm and gentle as she touched his forehead to check his temperature. "You don't seem to have a fever," she said with concern. "Maybe you're just overworked. You've been working too much lately." Nathan nodded, not wanting to go into details. Kimura was right. He had been taking extra flights in recent months, trying to earn more money. They were planning to renovate the house, and extra money never hurt. After dinner, when Nathan had rested a little and felt better, the couple felt that special closeness that comes after a long separation. Kimura became even more tender and attentive, as if trying to compensate for his illness with her care. They hadn't seen each other for almost 2 weeks, and it showed. The bedroom was filled with an atmosphere of reunion, tenderness, and passion all at once. In the morning, Nathan woke up feeling just as weak. The aspirin and rest had only helped for a short time. Kimura was already getting ready for work. Her shift at the supermarket started at 9. "Maybe you should see a doctor," she suggested, adjusting the collar of her uniform. "You look like you haven't slept in a month." "We'll see," Nathan replied evasively. "If I don't feel better, I'll go." But by lunchtime, he felt even worse. Nausea added to his weakness, and his head spun even when he was lying down. Nathan realized he couldn't put off seeing a doctor any longer. He made an appointment at the nearest clinic for the afternoon. Dr. Williams, an elderly African-American man with a gray beard, examined Nathan carefully. He took his blood pressure, listened to his heart and lungs, and looked down his throat. He asked about his symptoms, lifestyle, and recent trips. "When was the last time you had a checkup?" the doctor asked, making notes in his chart. "A year and a half ago, I think, to renew my driver's license. I'd like to take some blood for a general analysis and some specific tests. Your symptoms could indicate a number of different conditions. It's best to rule out anything serious." Nathan agreed. The blood test took a few minutes, after which the doctor said the results would be ready in 2 days. "In the meantime, take your vitamins, get plenty of rest, and drink lots of fluids. If you feel worse, come back right away." The next 2 days dragged on agonizingly. Nathan tried not to let Kimura see how bad he felt, but she noticed anyway. She offered to stay home from work, but he refused. The company was already unhappy with his early return from the flight, and he didn't want to lose his job. On Wednesday morning, The clinic called and asked him to come in to discuss the test results. Nathan heard a particular seriousness in the nurse's voice that alarmed him. Dr. Williams met him in his office with a concerned expression on his face. A folder with the test results was lying on the table. "Nathan, I have some serious information to share with you," the doctor began, pointing to a chair across from the desk. "Your test results are positive for HIV." The words hung in the air. Nathan stared at the doctor, unable to comprehend what he had heard. What did you say?" "You have HIV. Based on the indicators, the infection occurred about 3 months ago. The infection is currently in the acute stage, which explains your feeling unwell." His world turned upside down. Nathan felt the blood rush to his face and his ears ring. "But how? I don't understand." "My wife and I..." "Nathan, I understand that this is a shock, but it's important not to delay treatment. Modern therapy allows you to control the infection and live a full life. It is also necessary to immediately notify all of your sexual partners from the last 3 months so that they can also get tested." The doctor continued to talk about treatment, about the regimen, about the need for regular checkups. But Nathan hardly heard a word. One thought kept running through his head: 3 months ago. He remembered it clearly. 3 months ago, he had been on a long flight for almost 2 weeks. He came home, and he and Kimura... Could it be her? After receiving referrals for additional tests and prescriptions for medication, Nathan left the clinic in a state of complete shock. He got into his car and sat there for a long time, staring at one spot. His thoughts were jumbled and a cold, heavy feeling grew in his chest. He didn't go home. Instead, he headed to the house of Sean Whitman, his neighbor and only close friend. Sean worked as a mechanic in a small workshop, but today was his day off. Nathan found him in the garage, tinkering with his motorcycle. "Nate!" Sean looked up from the engine, wiping his hands with a rag. "How's it going, buddy? I heard you got back early from your trip." Nathan walked silently into the garage and sank into an old chair in the corner. Sean knew right away that something was wrong. He put down his tools and turned to his friend. "What happened?" "Sean, I need to tell you something, and you can't tell anyone else." "Of course, man. Go ahead." Nathan couldn't bring himself to start for a long time. The words stuck in his throat, and the reality of what was happening still seemed impossible. "I just got back from the hospital. I have HIV." Sean froze with the rag in his hands. He stared at his friend in silence for a few seconds, then slowly sat down on a stool nearby. "Damn. Nate, how could this happen?" "The doctor said I was infected 3 months ago. Sean, I remember that time clearly. I was on a trip for 2 weeks. When I came home, Kimura and I..." "Stop." Sean raised his hand. "You think Kimura? Who else?" "I didn't have anyone else but my wife. Never had. And she... Damn. I don't even know what to think now." Sean was silent, thinking about what he had heard. He had known Nathan for over 10 years, knew him as an honest, loyal man. If Nathan said he had no one but his wife, then that was the truth. "Have you talked to her about this?" "Number, I don't know how to bring it up yet. What am I supposed to say?" "Hi, honey. Have you been cheating on me?" "But if she's infected, she needs treatment. If she got it from someone else, she knows about it. And if she doesn't..." Nathan ran his hands over his face. "Sean, I'm going crazy. I can't believe Kimura would do something like this. Listen, maybe we shouldn't jump to conclusions. We need to find out the truth first." "How?" Sean thought for a moment, drumming his fingers on his knee. "Follow her. See where she goes, who she meets. If she has a lover, sooner or later she'll give herself away. Follow my own wife. Nate, if she's really cheating on me, it's better to know the truth. And if she's not, then we need to look for other explanations." Nathan nodded. His friend's words made sense. He couldn't just accuse Kimura without proof, but he couldn't ignore the obvious either. "Just be careful," Sean added. "And keep me posted. If you need any help, let me know." When Nathan returned home, Kimura was already preparing dinner. She greeted him with her usual smile, asked how he was feeling, and told him about her day. Everything seemed so familiar and natural that Nathan momentarily doubted his suspicions. Could this woman, who so thoughtfully served him food and asked about his health, have betrayed him? But then he remembered the doctor's words, 3 months ago, and a chill ran down his spine again. That evening, Nathan's mother, Dorothy Stone, arrived. A 62-year-old woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had worked all her life as a school cleaner to raise her 2 sons. Now retired, she visited them occasionally, usually taking turns. "Nathan doesn't look well," she said to Kimura as she made tea. "Maybe he should take some time off." "I think so too," Dorothy's mom. "He works too hard." Nathan listened to their conversation from the living room, and every word his wife said echoed painfully in his chest. She spoke with such sincere concern that he wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, a mistake, anything but betrayal. His mother stayed until late in the evening. They drank tea, talked about family matters, and reminisced about old times. Dorothy told him the news about Ramel. His younger son lived alone, rarely visited his mother, and generally kept his distance from the family. "He's become very withdrawn lately," Dorothy lamented. "He used to call at least once in a while, but now I haven't heard from him in weeks." When his mother left and Kimura went to take a shower, Nathan was left alone with his thoughts. He looked at the family photos on the mantelpiece, their wedding, trips together, birthdays. Had it all been a lie, or had it only recently become a lie? Tomorrow he would start watching his wife, and perhaps he would learn the truth he was afraid to hear. Nathan spent the next 2 days in agonizing doubt. The doctor had prescribed antiviral therapy, and now every morning began with pills, a constant reminder of the nightmare his life had become. Kimura continued to care for him with the same tenderness, which made his suspicions even more painful. On Thursday morning, he made a decision. Kimura left for work at her usual time, at 8:30 in the morning. Her shift at the supermarket lasted until 6 in the evening, but Nathan remembered that in recent months she had been staying late. Sometimes it was extra work, sometimes a meeting with friends, sometimes some other errands. He hadn't thought much of it before, trusting his wife unconditionally. Now every detail took on a sinister meaning. Nathan took the day off work, citing ongoing illness. It wasn't entirely a lie. The medication was causing side effects, and he did feel exhausted. But the main reason was something else. At 5:30, he parked on a side street with a good view of the supermarket. His old pickup truck didn't stand out among the other cars, and the tinted windows hid the driver. Nathan felt like an idiot, a grown man following his own wife like a private detective in a cheap movie. At exactly 6 o'clock, Kimura came out of the supermarket. She had changed out of her work uniform and was now wearing casual clothes, jeans, and a light-colored blouse. She walked to her car, a small red Honda they had bought 2 years ago. Nathan started the engine and prepared to follow her. But Kimura didn't drive home. Instead, she headed in the opposite direction, toward the outskirts of the city. Nathan kept his distance, trying not to lose sight of her, and at the same time, not to attract attention. His heart was pounding wildly. Every turn the Honda made brought him closer to the truth he feared to know. Kimura turned into a residential area on the east side of Fresno. The houses here were larger and nicer than in their neighborhood, apparently a middle-class neighborhood. Well-kept lawns, new cars in the driveways, playgrounds. Nathan had never been to this area before. The Honda stopped in front of a 2-story house with a white facade and a red tile roof. A black SUV was parked in the driveway, an expensive model that Nathan couldn't afford even in his wildest dreams. Kimura got out of the car, smoothed her hair, looked around, and quickly approached the front door. The door opened before she had a chance to knock. A man appeared in the doorway. Tall, athletic, dressed in an expensive shirt and pants. Even from a distance, Nathan could see that the stranger was younger than him and clearly more successful in life. The man put his arm around Kimura's waist and pulled her into the house. The door closed. Nathan sat in the car, feeling the world crumble around him. It was one thing to suspect, but quite another to see it with his own eyes. His hands were shaking so badly that he could barely hold the steering wheel. His throat was dry and his ears were ringing. He sat in the car for over an hour, staring at the house. Several times he wanted to get out, go to the door, burst in, and make a scene. But every time something stopped him. Maybe it was cowardice, or maybe it was the last remnants of hope that it was all a misunderstanding. When Kimura finally came out of the house, it was almost 8 o'clock in the evening. She looked happy and relaxed, adjusting her clothes and looking around again. The man walked her to the car. They talked quietly about something. Then he kissed her on the lips, long, passionately, like lovers kiss, not casual acquaintances. Nathan followed his wife home, keeping his distance. When the Honda turned onto their street, he stopped a few blocks away and waited 10 minutes before driving on. He needed time to pull himself together and come up with an explanation for why he was coming home so late. At home, Kimura greeted him with her usual smile. She had already changed into a house dress, her hair was loose, and her cheeks were flushed. "Where have you been?" she asked, coming up to him for a kiss. Nathan barely managed not to pull away. Those lips had just kissed another man. "I stopped by Sean's," he lied. "Helped him with his motorcycle. I was worried. I thought maybe you were feeling worse." What a caring wife. What a skilled actress. "No, everything's fine. How about you? Did you stay late today?" "A little. We had inventory, so I had to stay." "I'm exhausted." The lies flowed from her lips so naturally, as if she had done nothing else her whole life. Nathan looked at his wife and didn't recognize her. When had she turned into this deceitful, two-faced woman? Or had she always been like this and he just hadn't noticed? Dinner was tense. Kimura talked about work, complained about her coworkers, and made plans for the weekend. Nathan responded with one-word answers, fighting the urge to tell her everything. But Sean's advice kept him in check. First, he needed proof, irrefutable facts. He hardly slept that night. He lay next to his wife, listening to her steady breathing and thinking about what he had seen, about that house, that man, that kiss, about how his wife, the mother of his future children, had betrayed him in the most despicable way. And not just betrayed him, she had infected him with a deadly disease. By morning, the decision had come to him. Kimura had to pay for what she had done, and so did her lover. Friday was spent in feverish preparation. Nathan took the day off again, but this time he didn't follow his wife. Instead, he drove to a sports store on the other side of town where no one knew him. He bought a baseball bat, heavy, wooden, perfectly balanced. The salesman asked if he needed balls and gloves, but Nathan declined. He didn't need the bat for playing. Then he stopped by a costume shop. There he bought a simple black mask that covered the upper half of his face. He said he was getting ready for a party. The salesgirl smiled and wished him a good time. A good time, if only she knew. That evening, Nathan drove back to his wife's lover's house. This time, he didn't wait for Kimura to arrive. He parked on a neighboring street and walked around the block, studying the layout of the houses, the lighting, and possible escape routes. The lights were on in the house, and the same black SUV was parked in the driveway. Nathan returned to his car and waited. The bat was lying on the back seat, wrapped in an old blanket. The mask was in the glove compartment. The plan was simple. Wait until dark, put on the mask, go to the house, and make that bastard pay for what he had done. At 10:30, the lights in the living room went out and came on in the bedroom on the second floor. Apparently the owner was getting ready for bed. Kimura hadn't come today. Maybe they had agreed to meet every other day, or maybe she had just decided to spend the evening at home with her husband. How thoughtful. Nathan put on his mask, grabbed the bat, and quietly approached the house. His heart was beating so loudly that it seemed the whole street could hear it. He had never hit anyone in his life, except for school fights. But now, he was so enraged that all his doubts receded. The front door was locked, but the side door to the garage was open. Nathan walked through the garage and found himself in the hallway on the first floor. The house was quiet, except for the muffled sound of the TV upstairs. The stairs to the second floor creaked under his weight. Nathan froze, listening, but nothing changed in the house. He cautiously climbed higher and saw a strip of light under the bedroom door. The door was unlocked. Nathan pushed it open and entered the room. A man was lying on the bed in his underwear, watching some show on TV. When he saw the stranger in the mask with a bat in his hands, he didn't understand what was happening at first. Then his face contorted in horror. "Who are you? What do you want?" he croaked, sliding toward the head of the bed. "You know what I want," Nathan said, surprised at how calm his voice sounded. "You're sleeping with someone else's wife." I don't understand." "Kimura Stone, my wife. your mistress." The man turned even paler. He clearly knew that Kimura was married, but apparently hadn't expected to meet her betrayed husband. "Listen, buddy, let's talk about this calmly." "Talk?" Nathan laughed, but it sounded terrible. "What is there to talk about? You're fucking my wife. Because of you two, I've got HIV. You think there's anything to discuss?" Hearing about HIV, the man turned pale. "My God, I didn't know. She didn't tell me." "Of course she didn't. Whores rarely warn about such trifles." Nathan raised the bat. The man screamed and tried to jump off the bed, but Nathan was faster. The first blow landed on his ribs, the second on his shoulder. The man fell to the floor, curling up in pain. "Please, don't. I won't do it again." "You won't?" Nathan struck again, this time on the legs. "What if I hadn't found you? Would you have continued to abuse my wife? Infect other people?" The blows rained down one after another. Nathan did not aim for the head. He did not want to kill, only to punish. But rage clouded his mind, and every moan from his victim only spurred him on. This man had destroyed his life, his family, his health. This man had turned his loving wife into a lying whore. When the man stopped resisting and only moaned quietly, curled up in a ball on the floor, Nathan stopped. His hands were shaking, his breathing was uneven, and his face was burning under the mask. "If I see you near my wife again," he said, leaning over the beaten man, "I'll kill you. Do you understand?" The man mumbled something unintelligible, but Nathan took it as consent. He left the house the same way he had entered. He put the mask and bat in the trunk, got in the car, and drove home. His hands were still shaking, and his head was foggy. He never thought he was capable of such a thing. But he also never thought his wife was capable of betrayal. At home, Kimura was already asleep. Nathan took a shower, washing away the sweat and someone else's blood, and lay down next to her. She didn't even wake up. In the morning, he drove to Sean's. His friend was working on a car in his garage, but when he saw Nathan's face, he immediately put down his tools. "What happened?" "I found her lover," Sean whistled. "And?" "I followed her the day before yesterday. I saw her go into his place. They were kissing, Sean, like lovers." "Damn. What now?" Nathan paused, considering how much he could tell his friend. "I paid him a visit last night. I told him what I think of men who sleep with other men's wives." Sean looked at him intently. "I hope you didn't do anything stupid?" "Everyone has their own definition of stupid. I think I did the right thing." "Nate, you're scaring me. What exactly did you do?" "I talked to him. Now he knows I know about their relationship, and he knows he'd better stay away from my wife." Sean didn't look convinced, but decided not to press the issue. "What about Kimura? Are you going to talk to her?" "Tomorrow. First, I want to see if there's any change in her behavior. Maybe her lover will tell her about my visit." "And then what?" Nathan shrugged. "We'll get a divorce. What else is there to do? I can't live with a woman who betrayed me, and she can't live with a man who knows the truth." "What about treatment? The doctor said she needs to be examined too." "Let her figure it out herself. It's her problem. She's a grown woman. She's responsible for her own actions." Sean nodded, though his eyes betrayed his concern. "If you need help, call me. And try not to do anything stupid, okay?" Nathan promised, though he wasn't sure he could keep his word. Rage was still boiling inside him, demanding release. Kimura didn't know yet that he had revealed her secret, but tomorrow she would find out. And then their family life would officially be over. All that remained was to decide how exactly he would tell her the truth, and what he would do if she tried to deny everything. Saturday morning began deceptively calm. Kimura woke up in a good mood, made breakfast, and even suggested that Nathan spend the day together, go to the movies or take a trip out of town. He looked at her and wondered how easily she played the role of a loving wife, knowing that their marriage was hanging by a thread. "Maybe another time," he said, pushing away his plate of half-eaten eggs. "I need to think about something." "Is something wrong?" Kimura sat down next to him and put her hand on his shoulder. "You've been acting strange these past few days." Nathan barely managed to suppress a bitter laugh. Strange. If only she knew how strange everything really was. "Just tired. Work, health, a lot of things have been piling up," Kimura nodded understandingly. You know what? I'm not going anywhere either. I'll stay home, cook something nice, and we'll have a quiet weekend. But plans changed around 11 in the morning. Kimura received a text message and frowned when she read it. Damn, she muttered. I have to go to a friend's house. Jessica is having problems with her husband and she needs help. Nathan knew all of his wife's friends, but he couldn't remember anyone named Jessica. What Jessica? My new co-worker. We just became friends. Kimura was already getting up, heading for the closet. She's hysterical, says her husband beat her up. I can't leave her in this state. Lies. More lies spoken with such sincere concern that anyone would believe them. But Nathan was no longer just anyone. He knew that his wife was on her way to another lover, perhaps the same one he had recently beaten up. I wonder if he told her about the nighttime visit. Of course, go, Nathan said. Help your friend. Kimura quickly changed her clothes, grabbed her purse, and kissed her husband goodbye. I'll try to be back for dinner. Call me if anything happens. When the door closed behind her, Nathan went to the window and saw the red Honda pulling out of the driveway. He gave her a few minutes head start, then got into his pickup and followed. This time, Kimura wasn't heading to the neighborhood where her first lover lived. She drove in the opposite direction, toward the old part of town where workers and retirees lived in small houses. Nathan knew these places well. He had spent his childhood here, his mother still lived here, and his brother Ramel rented an apartment here. Did Kimura have another lover in this neighborhood? The thought that she had more than one lover was physically painful. But when the Honda stopped in front of a familiar house, Nathan felt his world turn upside down again. It was Ramel's house. Kimura got out of the car and headed for the front door. She didn't knock. Apparently, she was expected. The door opened, and Ramel appeared on the threshold. Even from a distance, Nathan could see that his brother looked unwell. His hair was tousled, his t-shirt was wrinkled, and his face was tired. They spoke briefly, then Kimura entered the house. Nathan sat in the car, feeling his last illusions crumble to dust. His brother, his own brother, had slept with his wife. The man with whom he had shared his childhood, his toys, his dreams, who was supposed to stand up for him against the whole world, that man had betrayed him in the most despicable way. Memories flooded back one after another. Family holidays when Ramel flirted with Kimura, but Nathan thought it was just friendly banter. The times when his brother came to their house while Nathan was away on business. Chance encounters in town that Kimura mentioned in passing. It all came together into a picture that Nathan simply didn't want to see. He quietly got out of the car and walked up to the house. The living room windows faced the side of the house, and one of them was slightly open. Nathan crept up cautiously and stood under the window listening. At first, only indistinct voices could be heard, but then he began to make out words. "You should have warned me!" Ramel shouted, his voice filled with despair and rage. "Damn it, Kimura, you should have told me! I didn't know!" His wife's voice was tearful and apologetic. "Honestly, Ramel, I didn't know I was infected." "You didn't know? 3 months ago you were already sleeping with that guy from the car dealership and the manager from the bank. And someone else I don't even know." "Did you think you could sleep around without consequences?" Nathan leaned against the wall of the house. His legs were shaking. The guy from the car dealership, the manager from the bank, someone else. How many were there? How many men had been in his wife's bed? "I got the test results the day before yesterday," Ramel continued. "I'm HIV positive. Do you understand? Because of you, I'm now a carrier of a deadly disease." "Ramel, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to? What did you mean to do? Sleep with half the city? Infect everyone you liked?" "That's not true. I was having problems with Nathan. He's always away. I felt lonely." "Lonely?" Ramel laughed, but his laughter was full of pain. "And that's why you decided to fuck his brother? Did that help with your loneliness? You wanted it. You came on to me at Dorothy's birthday party, remember? You said you always wanted me, that Nathan didn't appreciate me." "I was drunk. You knew that. You should have stopped me, not seduced me." Nathan closed his eyes. His mother's birthday. It was 4 months ago. He remembered that evening. They had all gathered at Dorothy's to celebrate her 62nd birthday. Nathan had left early because he had to fly out the next day. He left his wife to help clean up. And she... So many times over the past few months, I betrayed my own brother. I slept with his wife. And now we're both infected and he'll find out soon. Why will he find out soon? There was a pause. Then Ramel spoke more quietly. Because he got tested too. Mother said he's sick. Sooner or later, the doctors will tell him the truth. And then he'll realize he caught it from you. What should we do? Us? Ramel laughed again. There is no us anymore, Kimura. I don't want to see you again. Ever. But Ramel, get out. Get out of my house and don't ever come back. You ruined my life, our family, everything. Nathan heard footsteps heading toward the door. He quickly moved away from the window and hid behind the neighboring house. A minute later, Kimura came out. Her face was tear-stained, but she quickly got into her car and drove away. Nathan remained standing in the shadow of the house, digesting what he had heard. His wife and his brother had been seeing each other many times. While he was working, providing for his family, making plans for the future, they had betrayed him in the most despicable way. And then there was the guy from the car dealership, and the manager from the bank, and someone else. Kimura slept with anyone she could get her hands on, collecting diseases like stamps, and then brought them home, infecting her husband and brother-in-law. The anger that had been building up over the last few days reached boiling point. Nathan returned to his brother's house and knocked on the door. Ramel opened it, thinking it was Kimura back. I told you. He stopped short when he saw his brother. Nate, what are you doing here? Hi, Ramel. Can I come in? His brother paled but stepped aside. Of course, come in. Nathan entered the living room. The house was small and modestly furnished. Some papers were scattered on the coffee table, probably the test results Ramel had mentioned. How are you? Nathan asked, sitting down in an armchair. Fine. Ramel nervously fiddled with the edge of his t-shirt. How are you? Mother said you were sick. I am. Very sick. The brothers looked at each other. Ramel clearly understood that Nathan knew something, but didn't dare ask him directly. Ramel, I want you to tell me something. What exactly? About you and my wife. Ramel closed his eyes. Nate, I heard your conversation. I was standing under the window and heard every word. Damn, you slept with Kimura. How many times have you betrayed me? Ramel lowered his head. I know what you think of me, and you're right. I'm a piece of trash. You're more than a piece of trash. You're my brother. We grew up together. I protected you from bullies at school, shared everything I had. And this is how you repay me? Nate, it wasn't planned. It wasn't planned. Nathan stood up. Once it could have been an accident, but for months, it's a choice, Ramel. You chose to betray me. I know. You think it's easy for me to live with this? Every day I hate myself for what I did. Not enough if you kept doing it. Ramel raised his head, and Nathan saw tears in his eyes. Kimura is a persuasive woman. She said you didn't understand her, that she felt lonely, and I always thought she was too good for you. Too good? Nathan laughed. A whore who sleeps with anyone and infects everyone with HIV is too good for me? You know about HIV? Of course I do. Where do you think you got it from? Kimura infected me first, then you. We're all one big happy family now. Ramel clutched his head. God, what have we done? Not we. You. You did this, Ramel, and now you're going to pay for it. Something in Nathan's tone made Ramel wary. What do you mean? Instead of answering, Nathan walked over to the sports equipment in the corner and picked up a baseball bat. Ramel backed away. Nate, don't. Should you have slept with my wife? I understand you're angry, but let's talk. It's too late for talking. Nathan raised the bat. First, admit it. Say out loud what you did. What? Say, I slept with my brother's wife. I betrayed him. Ramel backed toward the wall. Nate, please. Say it. I slept with Kimura. I betrayed you. I'm sorry. How many times? About 10. Exactly. 11 times. Nathan hit the coffee table with the bat. The glass shattered into pieces. Where? What do you mean, where? Where did you meet? Here? At my house? Here. And And once at your house, when you were away on a trip. Another blow, this time to the wall. A dent appeared in the plaster. In my bed? Nate, in my bed? Yes, once in your bed. Are you happy now? Nathan swung the bat. Ramel screamed and fell to his knees. Please don't kill me, I know I deserve it, but please. The blow landed on his shoulder. Ramel howled in pain and fell on his side. You deserve much worse, Nathan said, landing another blow on his ribs. You deserve to rot in hell. He beat him methodically with cold fury, not in the head. He didn't want to kill his brother, only to punish him. Ramel screamed, begged for mercy, but Nathan didn't stop. Each blow was for every betrayal, for every lie, for every time they had laughed at him behind his back. When Ramel lost consciousness, Nathan stopped. His brother lay on the floor in a pool of blood, but he was breathing, alive, maimed, but alive. Nathan wiped the bat and left the house. It was time to finish what he had started. At home, Kimura sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and eyes red from crying. Seeing her husband, she tried to smile. Hi, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? How's your friend Jessica? Kimura was taken aback for a moment. Jessica? Yes, everything's fine. I managed to sort things out. I'm glad to hear that. By the way, I stopped by Ramel's place. His wife's face turned white as a sheet. Ramel's? Why? I wanted to see how he was doing. Mother said he's been acting strange lately. And how is he? It doesn't matter. It's not important. You know Kimura, he told me an interesting story. Kimura put the cup on the table. Her hands were shaking. What story? About how you and him dated. 11 times. Including once in our bed. Silence reigned. Kimura sat motionless, staring at the table. Well, honey? Don't you have anything to say for yourself? Nate, And he also told me about the guy from the car dealership, and the manager from the bank, and someone else. How many were there, Kimura? How many men have you been with? Kimura began to cry. Nate, I'm sorry. Answer the question. How many? I don't remember exactly. Nathan grabbed her by the hair and dragged her upstairs. Kimura screamed, but didn't resist. You don't remember? Then I'll help you remember. He dragged her into the bedroom and threw her on the bed. Let's start with Ramel. 11 times. Who's next? Nate, please. Who's next? David from the car dealership. We dated for 2 months. How often? Once a week, maybe more. Who else? Michael from the bank. Several times. More. I don't remember them all. There were a lot of random encounters, one-timers. Nathan looked at his wife with disgust. How many men, Kimura? Approximately 20, maybe 30. I really didn't count. 30 men. His wife had slept with 30 men while he was working to support their family. And you gave me HIV. I didn't know I was sick, but you knew you were cheating on me with anyone you could get your hands on. Kimura sobbed loudly. I'm sorry, Nathan. I'll change. No one else will ever get near me again. You'll change? Nathan sat down on the bed next to her. How are you going to change the fact that I'm infected? How are you going to fix the fact that my own brother betrayed me? We'll get treatment. No, Kimura. There is no we anymore. He put his hands around her neck. Kimura didn't immediately understand what was happening. Nate, what are you doing? What I should have done a long time ago. His fingers closed around his wife's throat. Kimura tried to push him away, but Nathan was stronger. She gasped, tried to speak, begged for mercy, but no air reached her lungs. This is for all your betrayals, Nathan said, looking her in the eyes. For every man you brought into my house, for my brother, for HIV, for my ruined life. Kimura struggled beneath him, scratching his hands, but with every passing second her movements grew weaker. At first there was terror in her eyes, then pleading, then emptiness. When she stopped breathing, Nathan didn't move his hands for several minutes. Then he stood up and looked at his wife's body. She was lying on their family bed, where she had once brought his brother. Now it was all over. Nathan methodically gathered his things, documents, money, the bare necessities. He put everything in a travel bag and took it out to his pickup truck. He walked around the house once more, erasing any traces. Then he got into the car and drove away. He had a head start of several hours, maybe even days, before anyone would notice Kimura was missing. That should be enough to get to the Mexican border. Then he would see what to do next.